Hi, BookTube, it's Amy. As you can see here, I stopped by a bookstore today. I had to run some errands down on Bank Street and thought, well, I got 20 minutes to spare before they close. I'll pop into Book Bazaar and see what they've got. And I was looking for, some of the cheaper books today. And I saw this by the front doors. This is Sir Winston Churchill's biography of Marlborough. And I don't think I've ever read anything of Churchill's, beyond, of course, his famous. I'm not sure whether they're historical works, semi-memoirs of the Second World War. But I thought, oh, that's kind of a interesting box set there. And so I added it to my bookshelves here. And I was digging down in the paperbacks, and I've been on a bit of a Louis L'Amour kick. So I thought, oh, I'll grab whatever they have. It's not really the kind of thing they would normally sell, but they do have some, old Penguins and ratty paperbacks by the door. And so down on the bottom shelf, I was like, oh, there were some Zane Grey and some Max Brand and these three Louis L'Amours. And I remember as a teenager owning this one with this cover, Brion. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. I never really questioned it when I read it. But I remember this vivid purple cover here. And then they had this one, the High Graders. I'm not sure if I ever owned and read this one. If I did, it certainly wasn't in this cover. I think I would have remembered the buff man with the sledgehammer. Rafter Crossing was a town building for an explosion when Mike Shevlin rode in. Yeah, I'm not sure I ever read this one or owned it. I definitely know that I had a copy of Last Stand at Papago Wells. I didn't have this kind of strange cover. The more you look at that artwork, the odder it gets. But I think Last Stand at Papago Wells might have been the first Louis L'Amour novel that I ever read. I would have picked it up somewhere, probably for $2, but I had a different cover. So as I said, a few Louis L'Amours, and then these. And these are in really rough shape. I'm going to see if I can move this stack. It's going to leave debris all over my sofa. But these were in rough shape, but the price was right, and the contents interested me enough. It's a 12-volume set of the works of Henry Fielding. Water damaged, dirty. The spine is missing on the one. But everything inside is clean to read, so I will enjoy reading my way through these. $50 for the set, as is, certainly. Edited by George Saintsbury in 12 volumes. This is volume 1. There's Henry Fielding on the frontispiece there. Behind the tissue guard, we can see that this is published by J.M. Dent and Company at Eldine House in the Great Eastern Street. And I'm a little bit, I won't say rusty on my Roman numerals, because that would imply that I ever knew my Roman numerals. But I'm not up to speed on the Roman numerals. But I'm assuming these are probably somewhere around the turn of the last century. Not the last century, but the last century. I'm assuming probably somewhere around, 1890 to 1920. And someone who reads Roman numerals easily is probably going to put in the comments, hey, that's exactly what this is. I'll look it up as soon as I'm done filming this video. I didn't think to do it before I sat down and looked at things. But there we go. Interesting angel up in the border above the contents. So in this volume, it looks like we've got general introduction. It looks like we have an introduction, an author's preface, and the history of the adventures of Joseph Andrews and his friend, Mr. Abram Adams. So that's in the first volume here. And oh yeah, there we have on the front border there, it's a little bit hard to read, J. Andrews 1. And so then in volume 2, I'm assuming this is the second part of that novel, J. Andrews 2. And I assume everything will be more or less the same on the inside. I don't think I've read any Henry Fielding myself, so this is kind of a fun find. As I said, kind of rough condition, but to get a 12-volume set of all the works that I can read through at my leisure, I think it was worth it for the price. And we'll see, I may try to do a little bit of repair on some of these. So we have Tom Jones, Volume 1. Tom Jones, Volume 2. Tom Jones, Volume 3. And Tom Jones, Volume 4. So it looks like it takes 4 volumes to get through that particular novel. Then we have Amelia. We'll open this up and look at this. So this is Amelia Volume 1. I think it's at least 2 volumes here, maybe 3. All nicely printed. It's just the poor bindings that are in unpleasant shape here. So there's the second volume of Amelia and the third volume of Amelia. And then we have Jonathan Wild in a single volume here. So we're down to volume 10 of the set of 12. And then the final 2 are miscellanies. So this one is in rough shape. Oh, we've got the previous owner, Alistair Totson, July of, it looks like 61. I'm assuming that would be 1961. So what do we have in here? Journey from this world to the next. And so I'm assuming that's a novel there. And the Journal of a Voyage to Lisbon. So that should be interesting. And then the final volume in the worst shape here. At least we get to look at some binder's waste in there. But that I can probably glue that down a bit to hold it together better. But it looks like we've got a play in here. The Author's Farce, The Tragedy of Tragedies, or The Life and Death of Tom Thumb, and The Great Pasquin, a dramatic satire on the times, an essay on conversation, The Convent Garden Journal, and Familiar Letters. So honestly, I might enjoy this volume the most, actually. And I thought I was feeling that. We have unopened pages here. I won't yank on that too much, but this volume certainly feels different than some of the others. I think the others have all been crudely opened, creating that deckled edge effect there, but these final 2 volumes, volume 11 and a volume 12, although they look like they've been through a war, apparently they've not been read, because I can feel we've got unopened pages galore. So that will be a pleasure to read those, to be the first person to read those. But you wouldn't know it by looking at it. Someone has poorly mistreated this set of books. But that's my haul for the day.